So, ladies and gentlemen, here we have the podium ceremony after the second race of the Formula Renault 2-liter Northern European Cup at the opening weekend here in Monza, celebrating our 3 winning drivers and the best team. Starting with our third place driver on the podium. Congratulations to Steims Rothorst. Second place in race number 2, the winner from yesterday. Congratulations to Louis Delatraz. And with the first victory of the season, congratulations to Switzerland, Kevin Jörg. And representing the winning team, Josef Kaufmann Racing, congratulations, Lars Kaufmann.
Welcome to Monza for the second round of the 2014 Lamborghini Blancpain Super Trofeo. It's dry, it's a little grey, it's a little overcast, but yesterday we had a tremendous first round of the championship, and round 2 promises to be even better. 1 or 2 of the teams have learnt a lesson or two, certainly in car setup from yesterday. A number of them were blighted by punctures. We're set for another cracking 50 minutes in prospect here at the Cathedral of Speed, this historic Italian circuit. Its history dating back to 1922. Everywhere you look, there are echoes of the past, but also the future of sports car racing, because this is a championship, the Lamborghini Blancpain Super Trofeo, that is becoming increasingly competitive and is taken ever more seriously season on season. And a 25-strong entry means that we are in for a very good race indeed. Now, yesterday it was a race won by Andrea Palmer. Is he going to do the double? We'll find out shortly, because the cars are about to be released round onto the grid, and then the build-up will begin for this second round of the championship, which will follow the Blancpain Endurance Series from Monza to Silverstone to Paul Ricard to Spa to the Nürburgring, and then it gets together with the Asian and the North American Series at the end of the year in Malaysia for the World Final that was introduced last year at Vallelunga. This year it spreads its wings and goes to the Asian market. David Addison in the booth, Jack Nicholls will be on the grid and then in the pit lane, and we'll bring you coverage of the second round of the championship, which yesterday was won by Andrea Palmer single-handed. You can, in this championship, have a co-driver if you wish. You can go on your own if you prefer, and there are the mighty Gallardos making their way round onto the grid. Now, everybody has to make a pit stop in this championship, and it has to last for 60 seconds. Add to that the time taken coming into and out of the pit. It loses you effectively a lap, but then everything unravels anyway, because, as I say, each car must make a pit stop. That's the first thing to bear in mind in all of this, and therefore, because some of the cars have 2 drivers, some will be of differing speeds, one driver quicker than the other. Ideally, you want 2 quick, evenly matched drivers. It doesn't always work out like that. And you'll see as the race goes on, 1 or 2 cars have an advantage when the faster driver is in, and therefore the pace quickens. Now, how do you play that? You should really have your faster driver in at the end, because if there's a safety car and everybody bunches up, you need a fast driver. Some teams yesterday decided to put the quicker guy in first, see if they could stretch out a gap for the co-driver to preserve, but really, those days are pretty much gone. There's always that jeopardy of a safety car late in the race, and so increasingly teams elect to put the faster driver in second. Also bear in mind that there are 3 classes in this championship. Everybody has the same base car, but there are 3 classes. The amateur class for the gentleman racers, the Pro-Am for those that either have a quicker co-driver, or indeed those that have done racing at a given level, have had some success, but aren't what you would call career racing drivers. And then there are the Pro drivers, the newly reintroduced Pro Cup back into the championship. That doesn't take, as it used to, for example, your GT racing stars like Peter Cox. Instead, it looks at drivers up to their early to mid-30s, career racing drivers from single-seater racing, from superstars, maybe from GT racing, but up to a given age. And what that has given us is an entry that includes, for example, Milos Pavlovic, who has come from a variety of single-seater categories up to GP2 level. Eduardo Piscopo, whose single-seater career got him to Formula 3. You've also got in the entry Alberto Cerqui, who's been one of the stars in recent years of the Touring Car Superstars series. You've also got Jonathan Cochet, another driver whose single-seater career probably should have taken him to being a Formula 1 race driver. He did drive Formula 1 cars as part of Renault's show programme, but he too, another very quick driver. He partners double champion Cedric Lima. In theory, that should be a very strong combination. Yesterday, it proved that Cedric Lima lost a bit of time early on, and the time lost was just too much for Jonathan Cochet to pull back. That car runs in the Pro class, given Lima's success in this championship, coupled with Jonathan Cochet's success and experience in other categories. you get the feeling, therefore, as we talk about these different drivers, that this is perhaps the most competitive season maybe ever in the championship, certainly for a long, long time. And not only is it strong in terms of the quality and the ability of the driver, but so too it is strong numerically. 25 cars in the entry, bigger than it has been for quite some time. It will begin from a rolling start, and the cars will be released shortly from the pit lane round onto the grid, and then everybody will get themselves set ready for what's going to be a 50-minute race. Not a set number of laps, but 50 minutes. And yesterday, 26 laps were done in what you could call a pure race, a natural race, no safety car intervention. And that's the target that we're looking for today. Battles right the way through the field, not just in the classes, but also this fascination of seeing some of the quicker gentleman racers in the AM class, mixing it with some of the Pro-Ams. And one of the real stars of yesterday was Simone Pellegrinelli, who, with some motorbike experience and Clio Cup knowledge, really drove very, very strongly indeed and got up to 7th place to win the AM class, but really give a tough time to some of the Pro-Ams. And not only was Pellegrini doing that, but also fending off at the very end Jonathan Cochet. So Pellegrinelli drove very, very well indeed yesterday, and with a bit more knowledge of the car, let's see how Pellegrinelli goes today. The cars are being released round onto the grid. Time for everybody to don their ear defenders, I think, because these cars are very noisy. They make a fantastic sound. This symphonic sounding grid, when it blasts away down to the first chicane, is a sound to behold. And you can see in the background the grid starting to fill up with the engineers there and the grid girls there. The cars run by a variety of teams. As I've made the point, it's the same base car, the Gallardo, but these four-wheel drive cars all run by separate operations, many of which, like the Auto Vitesse team or the Bonaldi Motorsport team or Autocarrozzerie Imperiale, they've been in the championship for many, many years. They have intimate knowledge of Lamborghinis and bring all of the data to help the drivers season on season. Another very interesting entry for this year, and the car flattered to deceive a little yesterday, is the Japanese entry. It's run by the Autocarrozzeria Imperiale team, but it's for Yoshimori, and he will start today. Yesterday he went second, and Tatsuya Kataoka. Now, Kataoka is the real gun in that car. Very experienced driver. He's raced at Le Mans, for example. He's raced in Super GT, in Formula Nippon, and he brought a lot of speed to put the car second fastest in qualifying. And he's certainly going to be a man to watch, with Yoshimori as his co-driver, driving in the Asian Lamborghini Super Trofeo last year. He took 6 wins. And so Yoshimori is going to go first in that car. But as I say, Kataoka, certainly one to watch. Very quick yesterday. And he will be, in the second stint, I think, able to make up some of the ground perhaps lost by the gentleman driver in that first stint. But again, it's all part of the fascination of this championship, the differing speeds of drivers, and you see it in other long distance categories as well. The cars working their way out of the Variante Ascari up towards the grid. We had 1 or 2 in the wars yesterday with mechanical gremlins, and I think that in fact Václav Pek's car will be a non-starter today, the former Czech rally champion, and also Jan van Uytsel's car that he would share with the Brit Jake Rattenbury. That's not shown on the grid for today as well, so I fear that is another one. I'll double check when the cars arrive, but that could be another one that's going to be missing. 1 or 2 electing to squeeze another installation lap out of this before they make their way onto the grid. Everybody running, of course, on Pirelli rubber. Yesterday, a number of teams had run the tyre pressures just a little bit low, and it was the left rear corner of, I think, 3 different cars that popped at some point during the race. One car, indeed, Dimitri Engelbert and Mikko Esquilinen's car, punctured the same corner twice. Well, they certainly, as a team, have learnt the lessons of yesterday and have made strenuous efforts to change the tyre pressures and perhaps also the ride height just a little, so there's a bit more clearance and a bit less weight being placed on that corner and a bit less risk to the left rear tyre. So the drivers making their way through the pits, then back onto the grid, and 50 minutes for this race will be coming up very shortly indeed. The crowd at Monza is getting larger and larger all the time as we have a busy day of racing for the fans here, not just the Lamborghinis, but also single-seaters and the opening round of the Blancpain Endurance Series. So it's a really busy day at what is one of the world's great circuits, Monza. You'll see, in fact, in the foreground to the right there, the banking that was built for the Race of 2 Worlds, the Monza-Napolis races. And if you look at the long shot at the back of the grid, you'll see where it loops back onto the straight. The banking is still there, never used anymore apart from for photo shoots, but go and try and stand on it. It is incredibly steep, and it makes you wonder how anybody used to race on it, particularly in the 1960s when technology was far less advanced than now. So the cars come to the grid. The pole man for this race, Andrea Palmer, yesterday's winner, and the grid is based indeed on the results of yesterday's race, so he now slots into place on pole position. His winning margin yesterday was a mighty 16 seconds, helped in part by being able to run solo, and therefore he didn't have to worry about a co-driver having to bed himself in for the second stint. He just got on with the job, and Andrea Palmer will be the man to beat today. So the cars lined up, one or two still making their way for another installation lap round onto the grid, but now it's starting to take shape. The bright yellow cars run by the Eurotech engineering squad, the Italian Eurotech engineering squad, with Gianfranco Baccalari being one of the drivers you just caught a glimpse of heading for the grid. He retired yesterday with a mechanical drama late race. So that car goes to the grid now, fit and well, fingers crossed. And with Andrea Palmer sitting on pole position, the way that he went yesterday, he very definitely starts as the favourite. Can he make it a double this weekend? It would be great for the championship hopes if he can. And the pole-sitting car, the centre of attention at the moment, down on the grid. But there's some pretty tough opposition in the way that Milos Pavlovic and certainly ex-Formula 2 champion Mirko Bortolotti went yesterday. There is going to be opposition coming right the way through this race, and with those drivers less experienced of Lamborghinis, they will be no doubt much quicker today than yesterday. So the pole man, Andrea Palmer, ready to go. Looking back further on the grid, other drivers to keep in mind. Tim Richards, who had his first race in anything ever yesterday, the Canadian, a great Lamborghini enthusiast who's been persuaded to go racing in the cars rather than just use them on the road or on track days. And when he was interviewed by Jack Nicholls after his first stint, he was grinning from ear to ear. He'd absolutely loved it, and Tim Richards. And he may not be the fastest driver on the grid as yet, but he certainly is one of the happiest to be here. So his car run by the British MTech team. He's got the team boss, Mike Edmonds, as his co-driver, and they'll be running in the AM class, starting near the rear of the grid. So as the grid now does start to take shape, Mirko Bortolotti's car is just slotted into place, I notice, on the second row. And this 50-minute race with the mandatory pit stops is going to be underway very shortly indeed. Round 2 of this championship, and the Lamborghini series that has been regularly run at SRO events for a number of seasons continues to go from strength to strength. And with the entry, including more and more quick young pro drivers, as I say, it is now a very serious starting point for a GT career. Let's join Jack Nicholls.
Thank you, David. Welcome to the grid, everybody. Andrea Palmer here on pole position. A great race for you yesterday. Same again today, and you'll be happy.
Yes, I'm very happy for the second race because I'm in pole position. It's very important the start, the first corner, and after I don't know. I watch. I finish this race. Okay.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
So Andrea Palmer ready to go. That's the man on pole position, and the Otto Carrozzeria Imperiale run car, and it's, as you'll find when the car's released, you'll see it, the grey and green livery. It looks a very menacing car, that, and it's on pole position. But alongside on the front row of the grid is Milos Pavlovic, who will start today, having done the second stint yesterday. So a switch of the way the team is going to operate this. Eduardo Piscopo is going to be the co-driver in that car, and doing the first stint is, as I say, Milos Pavlovic. Eduardo Piscopo, though, has always been a very quick young driver, no matter what he races, single-seaters or indeed GT cars, because go back to the first year of the Blancpain Endurance Series, for example, he drove a Lotus with the Mansell brothers in the GT4 class. And recently, Eduardo Piscopo has been racing in a different sort of sports car, GT-type car, namely Porsche, in the Carrera Cup Italia, in which he was third a couple of seasons ago. So Eduardo Piscopo is definitely a man to watch in the second stint. And let's catch a word with Eduardo. He's on the grid with Jack.
Eduardo, second on the grid. Things are looking strong. How are you finding working with Milos?
Oh, it's a great guy. I used to race against him in Formula 2, and now we are back together here. So it's a strong teammate. I'm very happy to have him with us. And today it looks pretty good. The track looks faster than yesterday, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
And do you think you'll be able to match Andrea? Do you think you'll have an advantage having two drivers where he's only one of him?
Not really. I think being alone it's slightly better because you do twice the mileage. But who knows? Maybe today we can beat him.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Well, certainly they got the car speed, and certainly there are two quick drivers there. So if you're going to put any euros on a potential winner, you could do a lot worse than go for Eduardo Piscopo and Milos Pavlovic. Milos is in the car. But then you go back to the second row of the grid, and third is where you find another very quick former single-seater racer, Mirko Bortolotti, who won the Formula 2 championship. In fact, the first winner of the Formula 2 championship in its MSV era is here racing in the Blancpain series, Andy Soucek. Mirko Bortolotti was a winner of that championship as well, and he's third on the grid, lining up alongside Roberto Tanca, who will start today in the car that's shared by last year's champion, in fact, Andrea Amici. And then on the third row of the grid, you find Alberto Di Folco, who yesterday rather flew under the radar to get fifth place. And the sixth car on the grid, run by the GRT Grassa racing team for Gerhard Trevaza and Sandro Bickel. Again, sixth yesterday in the race, having driven very strongly indeed. So there's a lot to look for in that first three rows of the grid alone. And let's go back down to the grid as we get closer to start time, see who Jack has got on the grid this time. Jack, all yours.
So I've got Gottfried Grasser here with me, the owner of the Grasser Racing Lamborghini team. What's it like, all of a sudden you've done a couple of years in FIA GT, you're doing Blancpain this year as well. What's it like racing solely against Lamborghinis?
We have to do it because it's a matter of the brand, you know, and the Lamborghini trophy has to be done, you know, also when we do the GT3 car also as well in the Blancpain series. So we are happy to be here also with one car, and we will proceed also in this season.
And what do you think the expectations are for the car this afternoon?
No, it's a great series, you know, everything is going well here, and there's a really nice championship, and I'm also happy that they allow now pros to go on the start here, and so it's getting really professional, and everything what is professional is in the interest of us.
Cool, best of luck.
Thank you a lot.
Gottfried Grasser, a man with vast experience of Lamborghinis, as he talked about. He runs cars in the GT3 championships as well as in the One Make series that we're about to witness, so a lot of experience in the brains trust around the car that's going to be driven in the first stint by Gerhard Trevaza. Go back a row, you then get to the car of Cedric Lima and Jonathan Cochet, which is another one to watch. And so the grid is now being cleared. At the 1 minute board, the engines will fire up, and then everybody will make their way from the grid. It's not exclusively Lamborghinis, you can see, because a couple of Alfa Romeos, the circuits course cars and medical cars, have got themselves on the back of the grid, and they'll follow the cars for the first lap just in case there are any dramas that they need with the officials to attend to. But looking down on the grid, the field is just about set, and very shortly we will be in business then for round 2 of the 2014 Lamborghini Blancpain Super Trofeo, with 50 minutes ahead of us, with pit stops, with in some cases driver changes, and with 3 classes, meaning 3 lots of battles. Let's have a look down the grid, because the front row on your left is the poleman, Andrea Palmer, lining up alongside Milos Pavlovic. Row 2 is where you find Bortolotti and then Roberto Tanca. The third row, Alberto Di Folco, and alongside him, Gerhard Trevaza. The fourth row, the blue car, is that of Simone Pellegrinelli. Cedric Lima is alongside, and as you go back through the grid, you find the amateur drivers closer to the rear of the field, but they are going to be having their own very fierce battles indeed. The door is wide open on car 8 as the camera scoots by. Vincenzo Sauto will go first in that, having spent many, many years in the Ferrari Challenge, now coming to Lamborghinis. And at the back of the field is Patrick Louis' car, which had a punctured tyre yesterday. There's number 5, which is in the hands of Gianfranco Baccalari. And in fact, there are 2 extra cars on the grid looking at it. So I think Jan van Uytzel is going to be there, despite not having been nominated on the grid. And so too will 88 Vaclav Peck, who hopefully will have got over his dramas of yesterday. But all that will be confirmed once the cars are released. And very, very shortly, the marshal at the start line is going to show the board, which will be the indication that there's 1 minute to go to the start and engines can fire up. And then the drivers will concentrate on that final formation lap, a rolling start, so at the end of it the cars don't then stop on the grid once again, they go straight into the race and it will be blast off. The 1 minute board is shown here at Monza. 1 minute to go. The engineers wish their drivers good luck. Engines are fired up. The last few engineers will clear the grid, and then the cars will be released. And Andrea Palmer yesterday did prove to be the man to beat. He was able to extend a little advantage over the Bonaldi cars earlier on, but largely that was because there was Kataoka in the mix. I think today, without him there, Yoshimori, his starting driver, further back on the grid, it should be easier for Pavlovic and Bortolotti to take the fight to Andrea Palmer. So it could be a rather different look, I think, to today's race compared to yesterday's. Mikko Eskilinen there, looking on, his car in the hands of Dimitri Engelbert. That was a double puncture car yesterday, but fingers crossed life will be better for them today. Dimitri Engelbert in particular is a quick driver. So, pace car as it is has pulled away. The green flag is being waved, and that releases the field, and the Raging Bulls are allowed from the grid. And a fantastic sound they all make as the cars accelerate then down now towards the first of the chicanes. A chance for the drivers to put some warmth into the Pirelli tyres. And as the cars work their way from the start line, so we are just about ready for this second round of the championship. That first chicane, very, very tight indeed, and certainly when there's a huge field of cars, it's a real struggle to get through. Even yesterday, we had one, Matteo Zucchi, being forced out wide. Let's have a quick look at the grid as the cars work their way around this formation lap. Andrea Palmer on pole position with Milos Pavlovic starting alongside him. The second row of the grid, Mirko Bortolotti, and alongside him is Roberto Tanker in number 11. The third row of the grid is where you find Alberto Di Folco and Gerhard Trevaza in the GLT run car. Simone Pellegrinelli is next with Cedric Lima for company on row 4. The fifth row of the grid, Matteo Zucchi and the young Dutch driver, Jeroen Mul. Quick young driver, Jeroen, one to watch, but he had a spin yesterday. The sixth row, Shota Abdelkava and Mikhail Spiridonov, with Yoshimori on the seventh row with Laurent Geny for company. On the 8th row of the grid, you find Vincenzo Sauto, and Taras Polishuk is alongside him. 16th on the grid, 17th is Alberto Viberti, and a long way back, but one to watch after a puncture yesterday, Alberto Cerqui. Tim Richards has Karina Lima for company on the 10th row of the grid. The 11th row, father and son Lewis, Patrick will start, Nicola goes second, and Dimitri Engelbert starts 77. Number 5 is in the hands of Gianfranco Boccolari, and then you add to that grid Jan van Uytzel, who drives car number 4, and Václav Pech, who drives 88, the Czech rally champion, now turning his attention to circuit racing. So that gives you a full field of 25 cars ready to go, and this formation lap is about halfway through, and very shortly they will get themselves in the 2x2 Noah's Ark style formation ready for the rolling start. A last chance to get some warmth into the tyres, and also by doing a bit of sharp braking again to try and generate some warmth in the brakes that then dissipates through into the tyres. The teams in the pit lane all glued to the television monitors that show them not just these pictures but also all the timing data, so they know how their cars are doing and how the opposition is doing in the 3 sectors of the lap. The first one that takes you round to the second chicane, the second sector brings you to the exit of this corner here, the Variante Ascari. The third sector ends at the start and finish line. So perhaps the ultimate one-make championship, the Lamborghini Blancpain Super Trofeo, about to get underway. There's a great social scene as well. The Lamborghini Blancpain Hospitality Centre on a Saturday evening is always full. It's always noisy. There's always a great party atmosphere. And assuming that the drivers are now clear of last night's excesses, they can go racing. You saw Yoshimori a moment ago talking to Chiyo-san, who races in the Blancpain Endurance Series. So the Japanese are here en masse this weekend, here in force, ready for a very busy day of GT racing. So you can see everybody weaving around, and now they get to the safety car line, at which point the field will have to bunch up, get itself in order. Roberto Tanker a bit reluctant to line up alongside Mirko Bortolotti at the moment, who is still vigorously weaving from side to side. But I think now things calm down a little. They get themselves in the correct formation, and so we just are about ready to go as the cars now turn their way out of the Parabolica. They'll make their way up towards the timing line. The pace quickens, and so round 2 of the Lamborghini Blancpain Super Trofeo is underway. The lights are still on red. They go to green now. Everybody floors the throttle, accelerates away from pole position. It's Andrea Palmer on the inside line. Piscopo is alongside him, and here comes Bortolotti to make it 3 wide for the first corner. He's on the grass. Palmer backs out of that, and Bortolotti goes through and grabs the race lead. That was very brave indeed from the second row of the grid. He has done it. Mirko Bortolotti leads going into the first corner. There was a sharp intake of breath, I think, there from Andrea Palmer, who had cars on the right and cars on the left, and he's dropped back into third place. So it's a Bonaldi 1-2 at the moment, because you've got in second place then Milos Pavlovic chasing after Bortolotti. The cars turning their way through Loretta Filio for the first time, heading up towards the chicane. So the race leader is Mirko Bortolotti. The red car there is Cedric Lima, double champion. In fact, he's not missed a race in the Super Trofeo. A vastly experienced racer, loves these cars, and lost out just in the last race last year to Andrea Amici for a third title. He's got himself there up ahead of Simone Pellegrinelli. The field turns through with number 79 then, going a little wide out of the second Lesmo. Mikhail Spiridonov, who had an off yesterday, had a spin at that part of the circuit. And you can see the way that the cars get themselves on this first lap into little pockets, ready to battle. Down towards the Variante Ascari they come for the first time. This multi-million euro traffic jam. And 47 there is the car of Alberto Viberti, who had a puncture yesterday, but he's trying to gain ground. He's on the outside line down towards the Variante Ascari. Can he go around the outside and gain a place? Yes, he can. That's brave, and it works. He goes around the outside of Vincenzo Salto in the yellow car. So Viberti is a man on a mission. Yesterday he ran wide at the end of the first lap and dropped himself down the order, and then he had a puncture late in the race, so we didn't really see the best out of him. Today Viberti is flying, and there's another car with some heroics coming up towards the end of the lap there, diving up on the inside. Jeroen Mul, he's gained a place at the Parabolica. Leaders make their way up towards the end of lap 1, and as they come over the timing line, Mirko Bortolotti leads by 1.2 seconds. Second place is Pavlovic, third is Andrea Palmer, who is having a different run today. He's having to break sweat and try and gain a place back, and he's almost level as they come down towards the first chicane. Not enough room. He slots back in behind as the cars turn their way. Now, through the first chicane, you can also see that under attack is number 11, Roberto Tanker from Gerhard Travasa in 25. So great racing going on right the way through the field. Bortolotti leads the Pro class at the moment as he the Pro-Am class, I should say. Bortolotti leads Pro-Am. Pavlovic is leading the Pros, and Pellegrinelli, as yesterday, is the best of the Ams at the end of just one lap, 26 being the expected number, assuming we don't get a safety car. Look at this little fight. Dimitri Engelbert in the black and orange car, number 77. He's all over the back here of the car of Yoshimori. They accelerate their way side by side up towards the first of the Lesmos, and Engelbert goes through. Dimitri, another very experienced driver. He's the gun in that car for sure, and he's making it fly. The Mad Croc-backed entry gains a place. That will now put Dimitri Engelbert then up into 13th place as the leaders work their way down towards the Variante Ascari once again. The leader, Bortolotti, is getting away, but second, third and fourth are running together. And then there's another great little battle going on for 5th place. And a big, big slide there. That was Roberto Tanker. A tanker slapper, possibly, but he got a bit of help, I think, from Travasa, who was right up behind him. But Roberto Tanker was able to save that. But now look at the red car of Lima coming up alongside, and look at third. That almost changes as well, as down to the Parabolica they come. Fantastic racing. Hard on the brakes for the Parabolica. Travasa up the inside. Through goes Lima, and Tanker gets put off his stride. He's gone down 4 spots there. Has he got a problem? Roberto Tanker tumbles down the order at the Parabolica. So, the new order. Bortolotti leading. Pavlovic is second. Palmer is third. 4th is Di Folco. 5th is Travasa. Lima is 6th. Mull is 7th. 8th is Tanker. 9th is Pellegrinelli. And 10th is Matteo Zucchi. It's all going to change again, I suspect, as they get to the chicane. Certainly one to watch, though, now is the man storming on in 4th place, Alberto Di Folco. I said early on he flew under the radar yesterday. He's drawing attention to himself today. And number 22, Jeroen Mul, is also doing a good job, making amends for his spin yesterday. So Mirko Bortolotti leads by 1.7 seconds, and still the battles rage on. Look down towards the first chicane as Patrick Louis in 55 gets himself ahead of Gianfranco Boccalari. 2 laps in the book, 45 minutes to go. This is going to be a great race, isn't it, if it carries on like this? Up front, Mirko Bortolotti leads the way, but he's being caught in the first sector by Milos Pavlovic. So 2 drivers that have had a great single-seater background, now turning their attention to GT cars. Bortolotti, having also recently had a spell in the Euro Cup Megane Trophy, has maybe a bit more closed car experience, but a top driver can adapt to pretty much anything. Battle on between Cedric Lima and Jeroen Mul. Lima is there in the red car. Mul is right up behind him. Is he going to be able to make a move coming down to the Variante Ascari? He knows that's his aim. Lima knows that's his aim as well, and therefore will try to defend. But in fact, Jeroen Mul stands his ground, stays in the wheel tracks. Through the right, the left, the right, onto the straight down to the Parabolica once more. Jeroen Mul perhaps lining up to have a go at Lima into the braking zone. He's almost hidden behind the red car. So close is he? Is he going to be able to dive up the inside? He has a look, he has a think. Then he has a reality check and decides he'll stay there. In the background, very wide indeed, has just gone what I think was Patrick Louis' car kicking up the dust. And the AMs here look getting themselves together for a very good battle. Pellegrinelli leading that class. At the head of this traffic jam is Yoshi Mori. He is giving Tatsuya Kataoka a lot of work to do because Mori now has dropped down the order. In fact, he is in 15th place as the second place car of Pavlovic comes through the chicane with Andrea Palma right up behind him, and then in fourth, Alberto Di Falco. So this battle is building up very nicely indeed for second, third and fourth places. Now Mirko Bortolotti up front shares his car with the Greek driver Aristotelis Varvarousis, who is not as quick as Bortolotti, so it will struggle to run at this pace race long, whereas Pavlovic and Piscopo are perhaps more evenly matched. So the car in second, therefore, you could argue has an advantage. The car in third, you could argue, has an advantage because it's the same driver all through the race. And we know that Andrea Palma is quick from his win yesterday. The same is true of Alberto Di Falco in fourth place, the former kart and Formula 3 and Eurocup Megane Trophy racer. He's another one to watch as this race wears on. What about fifth place? It's still Gerhard Trevaza. And then behind him, the fight is still on between Cedric Lima and Jeroen Mul. Jeroen Mul spent last year in the Porsche Super Cup. He's now on the back of a real Lamborghini expert, and Lima doesn't want to have to defend because that'll slow him up. And the problem is, if he's going a bit slower, he's losing touch with the leaders, which makes Jonathan Cochet's life very hard in the second stint of the race. The leading quartet down to the Parabolica once again. This is lap 4. And the team's watching on and enjoying a very good race indeed at the moment. Into the Parabolica now. Look in the background. Lima is defending. Mul goes to the outside. Does he? He goes to the inside. The pass should be on here. He breaks late. Through goes Jeroen Mul. He takes the place away. That gives him 6th coming into the Parabolica. The Dutchman moves ahead then, and Lima. Over the timing line they come. The Swiss, Cedric Lima, falls back a place over the timing line. Bortolotti's lead is up to 1.9 seconds over Pavlovic, then it's Palma and Di Falco 4th. Tveraza runs 5th ahead of now Mul and Lima. And is Cedric Lima going to be under attack from Roberto Tanca before long? Well, he should be in a sense. Tanca needs to play catch-up. He's giving his co-driver Andrea Amici a very big task in his stint. That I expect will be one of the cars in early to put the quicker driver in behind the wheel. The pit window is between 20 and 30 minutes, so we've got another 10 or so before they can think about the pit stops. But if you've got your slower driver in, you'll bring the car in early. And somebody's had drama down at the first chicane. There's damage to the left rear corner. Is that a puncture? I think it may well be on one of the Eurotech cars there, but there's certainly rear damage. Let's have a look. Was it a hit from behind? Everybody brakes and thump. Number 5 it is, Gianfranco Boccolari, who tried to dive up the inside. There wasn't really enough of a gap and he was hit, and it's broken the rear suspension. So that is the second retirement of the weekend for Gianfranco Boccolari, disappointingly early in the race. And with that broken suspension, he can't drive the car away. It needs to be snatched out of the way. So Boccolari is no more. I'll another look to see which was the car that clipped him, because that also could now be in problems. So keep an eye if there's anybody else going slowly or with a slow lap time as this stint wears on. Vaclav Peck, incidentally, who had mechanical dramas yesterday, is back in the pits today, I'm afraid, for the Heiko Gravity Haros team. So life gets no better for the former rally champion. And he's out of the car, and I think that could well be the early end to a weekend in Italy for him. The fastest lap of the race, incidentally, done by Milos Pavlovic in his chase on Bortolotti, who goes through, and the gap is coming down between the top 2 teammates. It's 1.3 seconds now. Andrea Palma running in 3rd. In 4th place still is Alberto Di Falco. And then it's Tveraza ahead of Mul for 5th and 6th. A quick look at the classes. Bortolotti remains in charge in Pro-Am. Alberto Di Falco is 2nd in Pro-Am. Tveraza 3rd in the Pro-Am class. And the car that you can see, the blue car at the head of that little queue of Pellegrinelli, leads the AMS ahead of Abzakava, and then it is Spiridonov who is the 3rd in the AMS at the moment. Down towards the Variante Ascari, they will come shortly. This is the 2nd chicane, at which we've got the midfield battle, including 47. which is Alberto Viberti, after his dramas yesterday, still trying to make his way up through the order. At the moment, Viberti there is running in 11th place as he works his way through the first of the two Lesmo curves. And the race then into the second 10-minute period, and that in turn will take us up towards the pit window. Replay of dramas here. Way off goes Patrick Louis. And that, I suspect, is the Parabolica, where he went off yesterday. Gets back onto the road. The dust is still settling as everybody else tries to go through the dust cloud. And Patrick Louis then back onto the circuit, but a similar drama to one that befell him yesterday in the first race of the championship. The car to watch, I would suggest, is now the second place car. Pavlovic on that last look there is pulling away from Andrea Palmer. Can he continue, therefore, to close on Mirko Bortolotti for the race lead? Over the line they come. Somebody's gone straight on at the end of the pit straight. That could well actually be Tim Richards, the racing newcomer. And there off has also gone the car of Alberto Cerqui. That's at the Variante Ascari. It's all happening all of a sudden, isn't it? So Cerqui, who should have been making progress, has been in 16th place anyway. In life, I think, will have got even worse. There you are. He closes right up onto the back of Yoshimori, brakes a bit too late, runs out of road. The only thing he can do is swerve around the Japanese driver, use the gravel and the escape area to his advantage, rather than fight the car and risk a spin. So Alberto Cerqui, who knows Monza well from his Superstars days, has an off, gets back on. Disappointing start for his Super Trofeo season. This, look at all the grass as well that's scooped up at the front of the car. That will need clearing out when we get to the pit stops. But look at this for the lead. The gap is coming down. It's down by 4/10 in the first sector. And that man, Andrea Palmer, has just done the best of anybody in sector 1. So it's all concertinaing up for the race lead now. Bortolotti, who was pulling away a few laps ago, is now being caught by his teammate. Hustling on behind him is Milos Pavlovic. Battle is shaping up nicely then between these two at the moment. Don't forget we've got the pit stops to come, but Bortolotti has a co-driver who's not quite so quick. That's the answer to who got involved with Boccolari. Yes, Taras Polishuk, who's in the pits. And his orange car is, by the look of it, about to retire because I think he's undoing all the intercom in the car and ready to clamber out. The Ukrainian, Taras Polishuk, had his large accident at Silverstone last year, but good to have him back in the championship. And the sorry sight of Vaclav Pech's car going no further. The Czech returned to sender, I think, because that's going nowhere in this race. Disappointing weekend. 2 retirements, 2 early retirements as well for Vaclav Pech. With 37 minutes of the 50 still to run, the leader comes out of the Parabolica and up over the timing line. There's a driving standards flag being held out there as well. Didn't catch a glimpse of for whom, and it's not coming up on the timing screen, but there is certainly a driving standards flag, so people being warned about running too wide at certain places. The gap is down to 0.7 of a second here between Bortolotti and Pavlovic. And look at this fight down towards the first chicane. Travasa on the inside, on the outside in number 22 is Jeroen Mul. Travasa hangs onto the place, but this is for 5th, and Jeroen Mul has to slot back in behind him as the cars now power their way once again up towards the run to the second chicane. That is Semeni Pellegrinelli, who is still leading the amateur class by some margin. Matteo Zucchi is behind, and Zucchi runs in Pro-Am. So again, shows you the different pace of drivers, how they can all run in these different places, and you're not just fighting against your own class opposition. This is the battle in replay between Travasa and Mul. Mul, I think, was just ahead for a split second, but on the outside line he had to cede the place, and so the Grasser Racing team car back through on the inside in the hands of Gerhard Travasa. Jeroen Mul will try again, no doubt, as once again, look, Andrea Palmer is coming back at the 2 leading Bonaldi cars. That gap coming down as the field works its way now up towards the Variante Ascari for the 8th time. We've got about, what, 3, maybe 4 laps before you can think about a pit stop. Andrea Palmer, I would suggest, would come in early and get it out of the way. Mirko Bortolotti would stay out for as long as possible and therefore maximise the amount of time he can be in the car. Aristoteles Varvarousis, his co-driver, not slow, but Bortolotti is certainly the quicker of the 2 in that car. Now, Jeroen Mul is still staring at the back of Travasa as they come down to the Parabolica, and he just can't find a way through on the inside there. Can he get a tighter line out of the long right-hander? He's certainly trying to, and yes, Travasa goes wide and opens the door for him. Almost invites him past, doesn't he? Come on in, Jeroen, he says. They're going to run side by side over the timing line On the inside is Jeroen Mul, and now it's a case of who's got the heavier right foot and the bigger whatnots as they go down towards the first chicane, absolutely flat out. On the inside line is Jeroen Mul. If he breaks a fraction later with the tighter line, the place should be his. Not quite, because Travasa levels with him and fights back on the inside for the second part of the chicane and hangs on to the place. Fantastic. Really brave stuff by both of them, but Gerhard Travasa stood his ground on the outside line and he's kept the place. Fantastic. Here's the replay. In theory, that was Mul's corner, but Travasa stood his ground on the outside. Fairness to Mul, there was just about racing room. There was a little touch there, admittedly, which forced Mul wide. But Gerhard Travasa fights back and retakes the place, and Jeroen Mul has got to do the hard work all over again. The incident that we saw earlier between Polishuk and Boccolari is under investigation, although both cars now effectively out of the race. There's little, I think, that can be done about it, but the stewards are going to have a look at the evidence nonetheless. They might have to start investigating this soon as well, because it's getting a bit more fractious now between Travasa and Mul. Great fight we're enjoying between these two. Gerhard Travasa is a man with much more experience of Lamborghinis, gleaned over years of the Lamborghini Blancpain Super Trofeo and also GT3 racing. Jeroen Mul is new to these cars, and having had a spin yesterday, he's determined to go even better today and not make any errors. Now look at the lead battle as well. That's nose to tail coming into the Parabolica, but this battle for 5th place, 4 thousandths separated them across the line. They were virtually side by side anyway, so it mattered not. And once again, Travasa has the wider line into Parabolica. Is the door going to be left open? Not quite as much as last time, so Jeroen Mul not able to pounce on the inside on this lap as they come over the line. He's in the wheel tracks, he's in the draft, in the slipstream as they come now over the line down towards turn 1, the first chicane. Travasa defends the inside line. Mul goes to the outside, back to the inside. Can he brake late enough to dive up the inside? Yes, he can, and this time he's done it. He's gone through. Jeroen Mul goes up into 5th place, and boy, has he worked hard for that. That was very brave stuff between the pair of them once again, having to brake so late, and with Mul going from one side of the road to the other to find a gap. Finally, it's paid off for him, but Travasa is not taking this line down. He's right back on the tail of Jeroen Mul, and in fact goes so wide he kicks up the dirt. Looks to the outside coming into the second chicane, but now it is Jeroen Mul's turn to make that car very wide indeed. Cedric Lima behind them in 7th place, another of the pro drivers. Jeroen Mul is a pro, Travasa is in Pro-Am, and this move from Mul, mighty impressive, under braking, going down to the first chicane, braked as late as he could, switched sides at the last opportunity, and there was nothing at this point that Travasa could do to defend. Up the inside and through to gain the place went Jeroen Mul. Meanwhile, back at the front, it is still Bortolotti and Pavlovic. The gap half a second last time has eked out just a little on this lap, and they're going to squeeze one more in before they can think about a pit stop. Jeroen Mul trying to gap now Gerhard Travasa behind him, and we're on lap number 10. 26 is what we're anticipating, given the evidence of yesterday. The cars coming up towards the line, and once more as they pound past the pits, it will be Mirko Bortolotti in the lead by just half a second from, in 2nd place, Milos Pavlovic last time. The gap goes up by a 10th on that lap, so little gain by Bortolotti. And then in 3rd place, Andrea Palmer, who's yo-yoing a little bit in the sense that some laps he closes, some laps he drops away. That was one of his dropping away laps. He's lost another 1.4 seconds, really, against those ahead of him. So by the end of this lap, the leaders will, if they wish, be able to get the pit stops out of the way. And looking lower down the order, Jeroen Mul is still pushing on, and now looking to try to get himself onto terms with Alberto Di Folco, but he's 4.5 seconds up the road. That's the next target. But things can change at the pit window. Things can change before it, because now, look, Pavlovic is having a real go, and given the way that they are so close now, number 3 in 2nd place at the moment is looking the stronger of these cars for a race win, because Piscopo can carry on at the same pace, give or take, whereas Aristoteles Varvaroussis is not as fast as Bortolotti, and I fear that in the second stint, number 33, the leading car now, will drop away a little bit. Not by much, but by enough. That certainly puts number 3 in a better position. It also will bring Andrea Palmer in 2nd place back into the mix. A word about Roberto Tanca, who we saw losing ground early on. He clearly has a problem, because he's down in 12th place, Roberto Tanca, who was one of the front runners yesterday, and Andrea Amici, his co-driver for the second stint, is really going to have his work cut out, I fear. So with the pit window open, Bortolotti, I would imagine, will continue. He should continue, but you may have one or two diving in if they've got the slower driver in first. Way wide over the curb there, Jeroen Mul bouncing and kicking up the dust. A flash of the headlights from Travaza. That's a bit cheeky because it's a proper battle for place, that. So if he's trying to intimidate him out of the way, it's a bold effort. I don't think it's going to work. Jeroen Mul is not going to crack, I don't believe, as they come through the parabolica. Let's see. Up towards the end of the lap, the leaders have gone by. Bortolotti and Pavlovic through together, but in third place, Palmer has gone through. Alberto Di Folco goes across the line, so as yet nobody has dived for the pit lane, but Pavlovic now I think would quite like to be in the lead when he brings the car in for Eduardo Piscopo. We have had one in, and it's Cedric Lima, who was always, I think, going to be an early stopper, to give way now to Jonathan Cochet. This battle between Jeroen Mul in number 22 and Gerhard Travaza up behind him is not resolved yet. Travaza is coming back at Mul on the outside. There's Bortolotti still fighting for the race lead. And here, side by side for fifth once again, Jeroen Mul still able to make his elbows wide enough and sharp enough to keep Gerhard Travaza behind him. As down they come to the chicane, Travaza has a look. Jeroen Mul absolutely intently focused on his rear view mirror, trying to position that car wherever possible. Now, Cedric Lima is giving way to Cochet, also in has come Tanker to see what Andrea Amici can do. To be fair, both those drivers, I fear, now need a safety car to bring them back into the equation. Monza being a Grand Prix circuit, of course, means that there are lots of little access gates and perimeter roads and internal roads, so that if a car does go off, it can easily be dragged out of the way, and therefore safety car interventions at this sort of circuit, Silverstone's another example where there are lots of separate roads, Spa likewise, it's perhaps less of an opportunity for the safety car to be needed, because it should be easier to get a car off the road quicker, and therefore perhaps those drivers counting on a safety car are going to be disappointed. But at the parabolica, the gap comes down again between the leaders, who are about to complete 12 laps. Will they do so on the track or in the pit lane? We'll find out in a moment, as over the timing line will come Mirko Bortolotti. Does Milos Pavlovic go for the pit lane? No, he is the quicker of the two out of him and Piscopo, so he stays out. And there's Travaza. And we're getting also a drive-through penalty for Vincenzo Salto. Now, he is down in 18th place, but Salto has not respected the track limits to the satisfaction of the race officials, so a drive-through penalty is being given to the Italian. Bortolotti to Pavlovic, though, is only 0.4 of a second as battle rages on between them. Whoops, Travaza gets it wrong at the first chicane. They all got bottled up in traffic. Travaza hooked a wheel onto the dirt. He's lost the back of the car. He's able to spin it round and rejoin, but that will lose him time. Bad news for Gerhard Travaza, who rejoins the race, and he's going to be all fired up, assuming he wasn't before. That takes some of the pressure off Mul, but all of this is because now, as you can see, Mul is attacking the car of Amici. That's a lap down, just having rejoined, and Mul outbrakes himself at the chicane, almost goes over the curb there, gets it back on. So Andrea Amici has just taken over number 11 from Roberto Tanker, and it was him coming out of the pits right ahead of Mul, who braked, and Travaza arrived on the scene and had to get himself as far to the outside as he could. Then he hit the grass and spun. That was all triggered by the car really rejoining after its pit stop. And, of course, frustratingly for them, a lap down. So a back marker for that lap, getting in the way almost. These are the leaders, absolutely together again. Mirko Bortolotti ahead of Milos Pavlovic. In third place is Andrea Palmer, but running third on the road out of this group is the lapped red car, now with Jonathan Cochet at the wheel. He's taken over, remember, from Cedric Lima. In has come Tim Richards there to give way to the owner of MTech, Mike Edmonds. In comes, this time, the second place car. Milos Pavlovic is in. He will give way to Eduardo Piscopo. Slowly down the pit lane at the required speed limit. And now, of course, as the cars cycle through the mandatory pit stop, the order becomes ever more jumbled. So it's at the end of this 10-minute window that we get a better idea of who is where. But there are going to be cars that will lose out on pit stops. There are going to be one or two that gain. There is Jonathan Cochet in the red car ahead of Andrea Palmer, who runs second now because of Pavlovic peeling for the pit lane. But Jonathan Cochet, who is a lap down, does not want to let Andrea Palmer by. He wants to try and pull away if he can. up his pace and gain track position in the second stint. Andrea Palmer, in the meantime, does not want to be being held up by Jonathan Cochet, and he does go through on the inside of the chicane. Cochet perhaps does the right thing there, really, because he is running at the moment a lap down. He lets the car go by. There in the pit lane, number 16 serving its mandatory stop. That is for Matteo Zucchi, who's been a bit anonymous in this race by his standards. Eduardo Piscopo then in number 3, ready to go in the Gruppo Bonaldi car. That's the sister car, still leading the way in the hands of Mirko Bortolotti, whose single-seater career sadly didn't, apart from test drives in Formula 1, get him any further than that, and he's now looking to a sports car career. Very quick young driver, the Italian, certainly well worth having on board your team. You see that long white line that the drivers can't cut. They have to wait to the end of that line, leaving the pit lane, and then they can move across and take the line for the chicane. Cross it and you get a penalty. Piscopo back into the race, and as the leaders work their way now up towards the completion of lap 14, Mirko Bortolotti it is who will sprint his way out of the Parabolica. And is he going to come in this time? He is. I would have thought he had time for one more lap, but he decides to come in now. And so the race leader, Mirko Bortolotti, will give way now to Aristotelis Varvaroussis. In so doing, this is where the lead could change. Andrea Palmer has come in as well. It's still going to be a fight between those 3 cars, with now Varvaroussis, Piscopo and Palmer, the drivers, into the second stint. I just wonder whether Jeroen Mul may be able to have a say in this as well, because he's still pounding on. Alberto Di Folco is pitted also, so we need to see what the order is when everybody has made a stop. But significantly now, it is whether or not this car, number 3, of Eduardo Piscopo, can cross the line and get ahead of 33 Varvaroussis before it leaves the pits. Varvaroussis is in. 60 seconds means you don't have to rush these pit stops. You can take your time, and you can make sure the driver is safely strapped into the car. No risk need be taken. It's the same for everybody. But in the meantime, Eduardo Piscopo is on his way down towards the Variante Ascari. Varvaroussis is in the car. Bit of concern maybe about the front left tyre. Tyre pressure's being checked. Same is true on the right front for Andrea Palmer. And away goes 33, so Varvaroussis allowed back into the race. This is the opposition though. This is Piscopo coming out of the Parabolica. Now you might think he's a long way back, but remember he's at full race pace, whereas the 60 kilometres an hour speed limit has to be observed by the leader. There he is, there is Varvaroussis, but that gap that looks a big one now is going to be gobbled up as they come down towards the first chicane. Now can Andrea Palmer get second place out of this as they come down towards the chicane? No, he can't. Past him will go Piscopo, and Palmer brakes late and goes straight on. He was so desperate to try and claim second place, he's outbraked himself. He's gone up the escape road. And Andrea Palmer, yesterday's winner, makes his first mistake of the weekend. He gets back onto the road, but the order then is Varvaroussis in the lead. Eduardo Piscopo is second. In third place is the green and black car there in the hands of Andrea Palmer. Number 4 that you can see getting involved in this is Jan van Uytsel and Jake Rattenbury's car that's a lap down, so ignore that for the purposes of the lead battle. Jeroen Mul did lead over the timing line, but in the pits. So in real terms, it's between these 3 cars as ever it was. And Andrea Palmer certainly has proved his commitment. This was the moment coming out of the pits. And at this point, he kind of thought, that's a Bonaldi car. I need to be ahead of that. And thought, I better brake late. But he braked so late, there was only one way he was going, and that was straight on and up the escape road. And lucky not to get collected by anybody. So he's going to have to calm himself and fight back now with 21 minutes to go. The pit window is still open, but everybody needs to come in if they haven't already done so at the end of this lap. There's the charging Andrea Palmer. Comes out of the Variante Ascari down towards the Parabolica once more. So Jeroen Mul had inherited the lead and he's pitted, and so also has Gerhard Travalsa from second place. Jeroen Mul will carry on in that car, whereas Sandro Bickel, Travalsa's fellow Austrian, takes over in the second place car. Number 16 there is Matteo Zucchi. We'll have a full look at the order and the classes as well in a few moments once the order has stabilised itself, because there's bound to have been some shuffling. But actually it does seem as though Eduardo Piscopo's car has lost out on the pit stops, because from being nose to tail a few laps ago, he's now at 3.2 seconds back from Aristotelis Varvaroussis. So why has Piscopo lost the time? Was it on his outlap or was it in the pits? Either way, he's got work to do. Andrea Palmer running still third behind Piscopo. The pit window is now closed, so those that are in the pits serving the stops are okay. Anybody else that hasn't taken their pit stop is in hot water. A challenge is being made here. Look up the inside, diving down to the first chicane. Jonathan Cochet trying to work his way up the order as best he can. So also number 4 is Jan van Uytsel, who I don't think has pitted according to the screen, and therefore that car has missed the opportunity. That will incur a penalty. Number 4, Jan van Uytsel, being shown as leading the AM class, but not having made a pit stop. The red car of Cedric Lyman now in the hands of Jonathan Cochet, however, looking strong as it comes up towards the Lesmo curves. And here behind Zucchi is 47, which is Alberto Viberti, so that's another battle building up nicely. Matteo Zucchi, who has been a regular in this championship for quite a number of seasons now, number 16. He's raced in touring cars, he's raced in one-make saloons, he's raced in Italian GT racing, he's raced in this championship too, so he certainly knows his way around a race car, and around Monza in particular. Down he comes to the Variante Ascari once more. Alberto Viberti at 47 at the back of this little group. So now the order starts to stabilise. It's Vavaroussis ahead of Piscopo, 1.6 seconds being the margin between them. Andrea Palmer in third place, and then we wait for fourth. It should be Jeroen Mul, who goes over the timing line. And Jeroen Mul has got work to do to catch those ahead of him, but it is possible. Now there is Jan van Uytsel to give way in the pits to Jake Rattenbury, but as you saw on the caption, the pit lane is closed, the pit window is closed, so this is happening outside the window, and that therefore I fear will lead to a penalty. Jan van Uytsel stayed out for a lap too much. There, trying to get out of the way, is Mikko Eskilinen, who has just taken over from Dimitri Engelbert in number 77, so that car is now down in 22nd place after its pit stop. But a replay here of what looks like a Bonaldi car getting it wrong at the Parabolica. Yes, that was Vavaroussis having a bit of a wobble, and so he's lost time. He still leads the Pro-Am class, and Eduardo Piscopo surprisingly a bit here. He's not hacked into that margin in the way that you might have anticipated. He's close, yeah, but he's not gone carving his way up onto the back of number 33. So Aristotelis Vavaroussis doing a good job up front here. 17 more minutes remain in this race. Vavaroussis makes his way down now towards the Parabolica once again, flashing his lights at the back markers in the sectors. Piscopo quicker in both thus far, so the gap is coming down. And how's Jonathan Cochet getting on? He's in 7th place, and he's on the tail now of Sandro Bickel. So there's another place change building up, I think, soon for what's really 5th now, if you take Van Uytsel's car in Rattenbury out of the equation. And that's the leading AM, as he has been virtually all weekend. In fact, every time we've looked at the class, Simone Pellegrinelli has been there dominating it, and this for the race lead. Side by side at turn 1, and up the inside for the race lead goes Eduardo Piscopo. So he puts himself up front. Aristotelis Vavaroussis drops back into 2nd place. And so Piscopo, who yesterday finished 2nd, striving to go one better today, puts himself ahead. And Vavaroussis now is going to be the man to see if he can hang on to 2nd place, or whether Andrea Palmer is going to be able to close on him. A stop-and-go penalty for car number 4, the Jan van Uytsel Jake Rattenbury entry. As you see in replay, the change for the lead, the stop-and-go is 1 minute and 41 seconds for not respecting the pit window. So they missed it, I think, by 1 minute and 41. That's the penalty they have to serve. So number 4 was a long way down anyway, but that is big disappointment because Jake Rattenbury is a quick driver, very good in Ginettas in the UK, came out of the Ginetta Junior Championship, and Jake, who's had occasional outings in these cars, always shines. So it's a big disappointment this, that he's going to lose basically a lap by a stop-go penalty. And it was down to his co-driver and the team for not coming in on time. Not his fault at all. Down to the Variante Ascari comes the new leader then, Piscopo ahead of Vavaroussis, but here is yesterday's winner, and Andrea Palmer now is getting a little bit closer to the 2 ahead of him. Very wide goes Vavaroussis. That's going to make Palmer's life even easier. Down they come towards the parabolica once more. And the gap between the two coming down and down. More drama. This is at turn 1, 70, which is Shoda Alzakava tries to dive up the inside and gain a place. Couldn't quite do it. So the bright green car of the Russian entrepreneur, race driver, circuit owner, owns a circuit in Russia, a circuit in Georgia, and races himself in Legends, goes to America quite often to race over there. A real motorsport impresario, and he came into this championship at the back end of last year. Now this is the second place duel, and it is Varvarousis ahead of Andrea Palmer. You can see the way the time has been lost, and Andrea Palmer now looking the stronger. Varvarousis tries to defend, indeed he does defend, and Palmer backs out of that rather than be hung out to dry on the outside line, so he slots back in behind the second place car, but all of this is losing him time from the team's point of view. Varvarousis is doing a good job of defending and holding up Andrea Palmer, who is quicker, but he goes through now on the inside. Up into second place goes Palmer. Can he catch the leader? We have got 14 more minutes to go. Is he able to do anything about the race leading car? The last lap by Piscopo was a 52.5, the last by Palmer a 52.4. So with clear road ahead of him, maybe Andrea Palmer can do something about a man who knows these cars less well than does Andrea Palmer. But Eduardo Piscopo's track record in single-seater racing is an impressive one. Now let's just catch up with one or two things from early in the race. Milos Pavlovic is down in the pit lane and he is with Jack.
So Milos, you're up into the lead with Eduardo, but Palmer's just up into second place now, so that's going to be the fight, isn't it?
Yeah, but I have faith in my teammate Edo, so I think he's going to fight him off, and hopefully we're going to end up on the top step of the podium today.
How was the first stint for you? You looked to be closing in on Bortolotti, but not quite close enough to make a pass.
Well, I was closing up on Bortolotti, and it was just difficult to stay close to him, to attack him, and so I preferred, because we were pulling off from Palmer, I preferred just to stay there and give the car in perfect shape to Edo, instead of risking something that, you know, could end up our race prematurely.
Well, it's working well so far. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Working well indeed, with less than 13 minutes to go now as the leaders pound past the pits once again. Piscopo is now 3 seconds ahead of Palmer. That last lap of 52.5 played against a 52.9. So the message is getting through to Eduardo Piscopo. Push, push, push. Andrea Palmer, of course, lost a bit of time while he was stuck behind Varvarousis, but having got himself up and through now, he's in pursuit of the race leader. In third place is Varvarousis, who leads his class still, so by no means is this a disaster because he's the leading Pro-Am, Aristoteles Varvarousis. In fourth place is Jeroen Mul. Certainly he's been impressive today, the Dutch driver. And then in fifth place is Sandro Bickel, running second in Pro-Am, having taken over from Gerhard Trevaza. Now there, in 27 is Andrea Palmer. In the first sector, he's quicker by 3/10 than Eduardo Piscopo. This battle is not done yet. It ebbs and flows, as we saw in the first stint, but when he's on a hot lap, certainly Andrea Palmer is very good indeed. Eduardo Piscopo has also got a slower car ahead of him. Blue flag being busily waved by the marshals to say to the slower car, traffic is bearing down on you, get out of the way. That, by the look of it, is Jake Rattenbury. And he has still not taken, as far as I can see, the stop-go penalty. So maybe there is a problem with the team being able to communicate to the drivers. Maybe that's why Van Uytsel was in late and why Jake Rattenbury has not yet served the stop-go penalty. But if he doesn't serve it, they're going to get excluded, I would have thought. So poor old Jake in the wars a little bit here, thanks to the rule book. And as I say, it may well be there's a problem with the communication to the driver. And whoops, on the very outside on the marbles, Jake Rattenbury has a big old slide. Well saved, Jake. Up towards the timing line they come, and now he does get the message, and Rattenbury slows, peels across when it's safe, and goes to serve the stop-go of 1 minute and 41 seconds. He can put his iPod on and listen for a while he's sitting there, because that's going to be a long, long stop. A long way down the order, the best of anybody in the first sector has just been done by Tetsuya Kataoka, and that is a recovering Mikhail Spiridonov, who has had a moment yesterday at Lesmo 1, today by the look of it at Lesmo 2. Let's have a look. Yes, runs wide over the curb, around he goes. And does he hit the tyres? Bosh, he does. He's damaged the rear wing, but that's not too great a drama for him. He'll be able to limp on. And there you can see some of the recticel barrier that's been picked up by the damaged car, number 79 of Spiridonov, shedding bodywork as he goes. Now there, on the inside, down towards the first chicane, 87, that is the man I was talking about, Tatsuya Kataoka, who was second in the qualifying session, and he's absolutely flying, having done the best of anybody in the first sector on that previous lap. Trouble is, he's in traffic, and the other problem is that so much time was lost early on by Yoshimori that he's facing a real uphill struggle here to gain too much ground. He's another driver that needs a safety car, but Kataoka, Japanese driver of great experience and great speed, now coming to race in Europe and opening a few people's eyes to just how good he is. Looking impressive in the qualifying session. He looked impressive in his first stint yesterday, and Kataoka doing a good job here of trying to drag that car up the order. He's about to try and make a move against Mikko Eskelinen, but that's not for position. Eskelinen a lap down after the pit stop. But you can see the speed that Kataoka has got. He's all over him like the proverbial rash, and can't find a way by there. So as he comes out of the second Lesmo, now he's got that long run down to the Variante Ascari, and he should be able to just go blasting past. Kataoka in 13th place at the start of this lap, but that doesn't really give a true indication of the guy's ability. So as he comes then now down to the Variante Ascari, we've got 8 3/4 minutes to go, and the gap between the overall leaders has grown a little bit further. Eduardo Piscopo pulling away. Now this fight, as it heads up towards the line, is for 8th, and it's changed because ahead now is Alberto Viberti, and Matteo Zucchi has dropped back behind him. So for 7th and 8th they come through. Viberti up and past. Can he catch anybody else before the end of this race? 8 more minutes to go. In the background, Simone Pellegrinelli there in the blue car, number 31, still heads the AM class by a good margin from Avtakova as Pellegrinelli laps Carina Lima there. But Pellegrinelli, as I said, who has been the dominant man in the amateur class all weekend, continues to dominate here, powering up towards the second chicane. And the opposition really is going to have to work hard at Silverstone to get onto the pace of Simone Pellegrinelli. He has done a great job all weekend. Former Renault Clio racer with some motorbike experience as well. And Simone Pellegrinelli turns now towards the Lesmo curves on his 22nd lap out of a projected 26. On his own. No class rivals to worry about. They're all busy battling behind. Aristotelis Varvaroussis, incidentally, is still running in 3rd place, but the gap to Jeroen Mul is coming down. And Andrea Amici, who was the champion last year and hasn't really featured in the race, has pitted with a left rear puncture. So disappointment for Amici. The car was in 11th place, but a long way back, and a punctured tyre has brought Amici into the pit lane. And interesting that, again, people having tyre dramas, even with yesterday's lessons in theory being brought back into their game plan. So that's the news from the pit lane, and in fact there is the new Pirelli being forced onto the left rear corner. It seems to lack a tad of finesse, this, and that is not in fact for Amici, that is for Andrea Ceccato, who is in the pits, having taken over from Alberto Cecchi, who we saw in the gravel early on. Ceccato is being warned about not respecting the track limits anyway. Well, he's now in the pits anyway. It matters relatively little for the moment. So, in fact, those cars, Amici and Cecchi, both from the same team, the Composites Motorsport team. So that shows you where the team has gone on setup and got it wrong by the look of it. In the last stages of the race, the tyre has had enough, and the left rear has gone pop on both cars. It ain't over till it's over. Jonathan Cochet, meantime, is 6th and closing on Sandro Bickel. So this is a battle for 5th place. They've got the slower car of Nicolas Louis just up the road. He will get out of the way, having taken over from his dad, Patrick, who was in the gravel early on. But now Sandro Bickel, hard at work here to try to repel the challenger behind. Sandro, who's done some sports prototype racing in Europe in the V2V series, now coming to GT cars. The gap at the start of this lap was only half a second between them, but it's, I think, when, not if, Cochet will get through. One driver that's lost out in the second stint is Alberto Di Folco, number 90, because he was running in 4th early on, and he's now way down, on the tail, admittedly, of Matteo Zucchi, 8th and 9th. In fact, there, going through the shots, is De Falco at the back of that little group. But he's lost time somewhere along the line, out of sight, and so the race has unravelled a bit for the former kart racer. So 5 more minutes to go. Race order remains Eduardo Piscopo ahead of in second place Andrea Palmer, but this battle now is on for third. This is where Varvaroussis sits just ahead of Jeroen Mul, and that gap has been coming down and down and down. He can afford to let Mul pass because he'd lose a place outright, granted, but he'd still be able to keep his class lead. So it's Pro-Am honours really that Varvaroussis is interested in. Jeroen Mul runs in the Pro category, and in theory should be able to find a way by, but it also illustrates this, the differing pace of certain drivers. Bortolotti, who led throughout his stint, and now Varvaroussis fighting this rearguard action to try and hang on to a place in the top 3 overall. Jeroen Mul goes through on the inside at the first of the Lesmo curves, gains the place, and now I think should pull away. He won't capture the top 2, barring a problem for them, but this is a much, much better drive by Jeroen Mul than we saw in the first race yesterday. He had a spin. So Mul looking strong in his first weekend in Lamborghinis, having raced in Porsches last year. He's done quite a lot of sports car racing en route to there, like the Carrera Cup Germany. He's raced in the Dutch Supercar Challenge, although Jeroen's background includes single-seaters when he drove in Formula 3 in the German F3 Cup. More battles on. Mike Edmonds at the back trying to find a way by as they come powering past the pits. Just up ahead of him in number 8 is Manuel Flaminio, and Mike Edmonds tries to find a way past as they come down now towards the first chicane. Frustratingly though, these cars are on different laps, so it's not really a fair battle between them, but it's good to watch nonetheless, and the drivers are enjoying themselves. So if you have a Lamborghini to race at Monza and there's somebody to fight against, you're going to fight. 3 more minutes equates to 2 more laps for race leader Eduardo Piscopo, who now has certainly broken away from Andrea Palmer. I think Andrea has had to settle for second place. He's realised that it just ain't on in terms of catching the leader, but he in turn is 7 seconds up on Jeroen Mul, so he should be good for second place. He is not lapping as quickly as Mul, but he's not losing seconds. He's losing half a second or so a lap, and there just isn't enough time for the Dutchman to catch back up again. Down here towards the first chicane. Whoops, getting it wrong is Sandro Bickel, and so that gives Jonathan Cochet 5th place. Easy peasy that. There you can see Varvaroussis making his way through the chicane. Behind him on the road is Andrea Ceccato, but he's on a different lap, so you can discount Ceccato from this for the moment. He's another experienced sports car racer, Andrea. So Aristoteles Varvaroussis leading in Pro-Am, and his class opposition, Sandro Bickel, of course, has just done himself a power of no good by running up the escape road at the first chicane. So it is Piscopo ahead of Palmer. There is the second place man coming through the Variante Ascari. And some way back is Jeroen Mul, who is still pounding on. There he is, the Dutchman, coming up towards us. But I just don't think there's enough time left in which he can do anything about the man ahead. Indeed, he was slower in Sector 1, quicker in Sector 2, but the gap is too wide as we approach the last lap of the race. There is Sandro Bickel, having gone out the escape road. Oh, tyre's gone! Big, big drama. And the car with the rear alight as well comes to a halt. I think an engine has blown and caused the tyre to go at the same time. That's a big, big drama. There's oil on the road, there's debris on the road. And Sandro Bickel out of the race. He heard the bang, and the tyre went pop. There was flame out of the engine. A big, big drama for Sandro Bickel, who was running second in Pro-Am, and a huge blow for the team right at the very end. There's debris on the road. The car thankfully parked off the circuit. And somebody else has had a tyre drama by the look of it, going down towards the first chicane. That slippery surface flag to warn people of chunks of rubber on the road. So we're on the last lap, and there's drama all the way around the circuit. So a huge explosion. You could hear it from the rear of the car. Bodywork flew, which made me think it was just the tyre, but all of that flame suggested something more acute in the engine bay. Let's have another look. There goes the tyre, rips the rear wing off, and then the engine sort of sets alight, doesn't it? I think it was the tyre that went first, but a big, big bang. Bodywork tyre lying in the road. And there it was, coming towards us, more bodywork still flailing, the rear of the car well alight. The driver struggling to slow it down safely, get out of the way. The tyre completely gone from the rim. Marshall's there quickly. Fair play to Sandro Bickel. He did exactly the right thing. He got the car slowed down as soon as he could, got it to a fire point, and the drama's quickly dispensed with. So, I think I said it wasn't over till it's over. There's one more corner to go. What can happen yet? It's going to be a win, isn't it, for Eduardo Piscopo and for the man that started in the car, Milos Pavlovic, in a race of high drama. Up towards the line comes number 3, the Bonaldi Motorsport car, takes the win. Round 2 of the Lamborghini Super Trofeo is won by Eduardo Piscopo and Milos Pavlovic, with second set to go the way of Andrea Palmer. He goes through, does he? Let's see. There, I think, is Jeroen Mull who takes second. So what's happened to Andrea Palmer on the last lap? He has gone through the second sector slowly. I think he's got a puncture. He has. That other amount of debris on the road at the first chicane must have been Andrea Palmer's. He's limped his way around. There's another car in problems. That's Varvaroussis limping up towards the line. Now, is that fuel or is that a tyre as well? So third place is up for grabs for Jonathan Cochet, potentially. As across the timing line, yes, Cochet takes third. Varvaroussis takes fourth. Fifth is Viberti. Sixth is Zucchi. Seventh, Alberto Di Folco. Varvaroussis, I think yesterday, was marginal on fuel at the end because the car stopped just after the checkered flag, and it's limped over the line again today. But I think that's fuel rather than tyres in the case of Varvaroussis. Andrea Palmer has not yet got to the line, so ninth goes the way of car 87, which is Kataoka. And there, Andrea Palmer drags the car home for 10th place. Having been in that leading gaggle race long, 10th hardly tells you the story at all, does it? What a last lap. Things happening right the way to the line. And as the remains of Sandro Bickel and Gerhard Travaza's car smoulders away, Eduardo Piscopo and Milos Pavlovic, I think, about the only team with no real dramas in that race. Victory is theirs. And we'll catch up on the full result in a moment. But Jeroen Mull inheriting second on the last lap and Jonathan Cochet inheriting third. Really thanks to the dramas that other people were having on that last lap of the race. So Andrea Palmer's puncture must have come early in the lap because his middle sector was a very slow one. His first sector was slow as well. And we didn't see it happen, but it must have been on the way down towards the first chicane where more debris was lying in the middle of the road. So, as far as the classes are concerned, the pro category won by Piscopo and Pavlovic. Second in the class, Jeroen Mull. And third, Cedric Lima and Jonathan Cochet. In Pro-Am, it is Aristoteles Varvaroussis and Mirko Bortolotti from Matteo Zucchi. And third, Alberto Di Folco. And in the amateur class, 'twas ever thus this weekend. Simone Pellegrinelli takes the win from Shoda Auzakava, and then Mikhail Spiridonov third in the class. That's the overall result. A win for Piscopo and Pavlovic at Monza by 10 seconds from Jeroen Mull, with Cedric Lima and Jonathan Cochet third. Bortolotti and Varvaroussis take a class-winning fourth ahead of Viberti and Zucchi. Di Folco seventh. A class-winning eighth is Pellegrinelli. Yoshimori and Tatsuya Kataoka ninth ahead of Andrea Palmer, with Shoda Alcazava 11th and Mikhail Spiridonov 12th at the end of 50 minutes of racing. Behind them, 13th, we hardly saw them race long, Laurent Geny and Michel Mitaria, ahead of Maurizio Flamino and Vincenzo Sauto. The Louis father and son combination bags 15th, and a punctured tanker and Amici 16th from Richards and Edmonds. And then the walking wounded, Travaza and Bickel classified 18th, Van Uytsel and Rattenbury 19th, Carina Lima 20th, and more woes seemingly for Engelbert and Escalainen ahead of, behind them, the car of Ceccato and Cerqui, with Taras Polishuk, we know, out early on. So too was Vaclav Pech, and also Gianfranco Boccolari was an early retirement. What a race. Eduardo Piscopo then takes honours with the help of Milos Pavlovic, and a very happy race winner. So the drivers being marshalled around Parc Fermé. They'll then go to the podium, of which there are 3, because there's a podium ceremony per class. And the next rounds of the Lamborghini Blancpain Super Trofeo will be at Silverstone on the full Grand Prix circuit in May. And it's always a circuit that, of course, lends itself to sports car racing. So Silverstone with Blancpain and the Lamborghini Championships will be a great place to be over the weekend of the 24th 24th, 25th of May, as the drivers, having congratulated their engineers, will make their way to television cameras and then to the podium. We may be able to grab a word with one or two before they head to the podium.
In a little bit, in 2 seconds, if it comes to me.
The marshals are going to have a very busy few minutes before the next track activity here, because there's quite a bit of clearing up to do, not just of cars, but also of debris, with so many bits of bodywork and chunks of tyre lying all over the road. So they're going to be busy before the next race gets underway. Formula Renault 3.5 is part of the programme of races here this weekend, and those cars have a second race still to come today. So as the fans are
Mi è sfuggito Pavarussi, qua il secondo classificato nella Podium, Matteo Zucchi, grande gara, cambiato tutto in mezzo giro.
In Pro-Am, talking to the Italian media, and he and Mirko Bortolotti winning the class from Matteo Zucchi and Alberto Di Folco, third in the Pro-Am class. Aristotelis Vavarussis still with his helmet on, but making his way shortly to the podium. One or two cars haven't even survived the slowing down lap. Andrea Palmer's car stopped out on the circuit after its tyre had gone bang. So there's quite a lot to be done before everybody gets back to Parc Fermé. Vavarussis is delighted with his day's work, isn't he? So as the drivers go to the podium, a win, 10.5 seconds, the margin for Piscopo over Jeroen Mul. In the foreground there is in fact Andrea Palmer's car at pit out. So he crossed the timing line, backed it off and stopped on his way down to the first corner, going no further. So the drivers now being escorted by the championship officials up to the podium. Quick. And one or two aspiring Lamborghini owners having enjoyed that race. A lot of attention for the Grasser Racing Team car that Sandro Bickel had to park in a big hurry, looking at exactly what caused the conflagration. But you saw the tyre go bang, you saw the bodywork rip off. There is Sandro Bickel walking away from it. I think fair play to him. He did a good job of slowing down that car in a straight line in what was a pretty scary moment. At very high speed, remember, full on the throttle coming down to that part of the circuit. So he did a very good job of controlling it, not having a bigger moment, and indeed not involving anybody else. So let's look at the highlights of round 2 of the Lamborghini Blancpain Super Trofeo. It began with colour on the grid and drama on the way to the first corner as a fast-starting Mirko Bortolotti launched himself from the second row, grass and all, up the inside to take the lead of the race. Bortolotti led from Milos Pavlovic in the pits. Others watched the progress of their cars. And hustling on was the Dutchman Jeroen Mul. He picked off Cedric Lima heading down towards the Parabolica. Dimitri Enjalbert ran wide coming out of the Variante Ascari. Boccolari and Polishuk got together at turn 1. Alberto Cerqui made a mistake going through the Variante Ascari. He ran through the gravel bed and got back onto the circuit, taking a lot of grass with him. That needed clearing out at the first round of pit stops. Mul battled with Travaza. They were together at the chicane. Travaza hung onto his place. Mul tried the inside a lap later. Travaza hung onto the place. A lap later, Mul had another go on the inside, and this time the place was his. There was nothing Travaza could do there to fight back, but he didn't give up. The two of them squabbled, Mul running wide coming out of the Variante Ascari. Then Travaza made a mistake as traffic caught him out. The car swapping ends at turn 1. Roberto Tanker was under pressure. Others ran wide over the curb. Was out on track. The two Bonaldi Motorsport cars traded places. Piscopo taking over the lead from Aristotelis Vavarussis. After the pit stops, Andrea Palmer tried to get himself into second place with some late braking. There was only one place he was going, and that was straight on up the escape road. Schroeder Alcazava tried to get together with Mikhail Spiridonov at the first chicane. The two enjoyed a great battle for second in the AM category. Ultimately, this spin from Spiridonov meant he will drop down to third despite the rear damage. He got the car to the end. And then towards the end of 50 minutes of racing, the drama was ramped up. A punctured tyre, debris over the road, and a big fire at the back of the car of Sandro Bickel and Gerhard Travasa put that out of the race. On distance, it was classified in 18th position, but a scary moment for Sandro Bickel, who had to park the car in a big hurry. And then Andrea Palmer had a puncture on the last lap of the race as well. He tumbled down the order, and others found themselves struggling to the line. But no dramas for Eduardo Piscopo, who came through as the race winner. He and Milos Pavlovic celebrating their first win of the season and their first win in a Lamborghini. Both of them rookies to the championship for 2014. And so the podium ceremony is getting underway with the AMs being first, and the man that was third in the class, Mikhail Spiridonov, up for second in the class, Shota Alcazava. And for the top step of the podium, Simone Pellegrinelli will make his way out for a second victory of the weekend for Simone Pellegrinelli. So the amateur class, just to reiterate, won for the second time this weekend by Simone Pellegrinelli. Second place going to Shota Abkazava. They're on the second step, the race driver, race promoter, race team owner, circuit owner, you name it. And Mikhail Spiridonov taking third place. The impressive trophy is being presented, but it's 2 out of 2. So the bronze, the silver, and then the gold handed out. And Simone Pellegrinelli takes a second trophy of the weekend here at Monza in the Lamborghini Blancpain Super Trofeo. And the pace that he has had is mighty impressive indeed. The Pirelli trophy given to him as well. And Simone Pellegrinelli, I think, has enjoyed a very good weekend here for DT Motorsport. The three drivers now get together on the top step for photographs, and for the winner, a Blancpain clock as well. The AM class being for the young, the inexperienced drivers, or indeed for the pure gentleman racers. And it's a good mix, and it's an opportunity for more and more people to come into the championship. And of course, these cars with great value, therefore hold the value at the end of the season. So it's, if you can have low-cost motor racing, it does make sense. You get it some very nice venues. You can split the costs of hiring or renting or leasing a car for the year between you and a co-driver if you desire. Although here, you've got three drivers going solo. And even though he's not won his class, you can see that Shota Abkazava is absolutely delighted with second place in race 2. The drivers now then will make their way off the podium, and because they are gentlemen, they will take the champagne and perhaps share it with their team rather than spray it at one another. Although I've got a horrible feeling that Pellegrinelli may well be being persuaded otherwise here. We'll see. So one of the three podiums is done. The Pro-Am podium coming up next. And all around the circuit, cars and bits of car are being retrieved. That's the remains, sad remains really, of Travasa and Bickel's car after its earlier woes. And so the podium now is made ready for the second group of drivers from the Pro-Am category this time. And they will be headed up by the Italian driver, Alberto Di Folco, who takes third place. The driver who's moved from the Eurocup Megane Trophy to Lamborghini for this year makes his way up the steps onto the podium. For second place, Matteo Zucchi will make his way out to stand at the other end of the podium. And the class winners, Mirko Bortolotti and Aristoteles Vavaroussis, winning the class and the top Pro-Ams in fourth place overall. There you can see Matteo Zucchi congratulating Alberto Di Folco, but there are the two class winners, Mirko Bortolotti and Aristoteles Vavaroussis. So the Italian national anthem for the winning team, because the Bonaldi Motorsport squad is an Italian équipe, and so now the trophies are presented. Matteo Zucchi there gets his second place silver trophy. Alberto Di Folco's bronze already in his hand. And is it 2 or is it 1? It's 1 each for the class winners. Luca Bortolotti very happy with his work, so too Aristoteles Vavaroussis. And the Pirelli trophy also now going to the class winners. So Pro-Am, yet again, has given some good racing. And Luca Bortolotti, I think, is going to be a real force to be reckoned with. And Vavaroussis may have lost time in his stint, but proving to be far faster than last year. So with experience comes speed. And that combination looking ever stronger as the drivers huddle together for the photos on the top step. Vavaroussis with the Blancpain clock. He may well have quite a collection of those come the end of the season if this weekend's pace is anything to go by. And so the Pro-Am drivers put down the trophies and pick up the bottles of champagne, which are going to make the podium oh so messy, I fear. And as it's sprayed, they have no more racing to do. They can make sure their overalls can have a good wash ready for the next round. They don't need to worry about being hot and sticky for the rest of the day because their work at Monza is done. So the celebrations can start right here. So the drivers together and the photographs being taken. Trophies held aloft, bottles of champagne held aloft, and everybody with their Pirelli hats. Pirelli supplying the rubber for the Lamborghini Super Trofeo. And so one more podium to go, and that is for the top 3 drivers overall, and indeed the top 3 in the Pro category. And when the podium is made ready, it will be first out Cedric Lima and Jonathan Cochet, who inherited that 3rd place on the last lap. It's going to be a rather noisy podium because you'll have the soundtrack courtesy of Renault engines that are in the pit lane. There, bits of Lamborghini. That's the under tray of the Travasa and Bickel car after its spectacular blowout coming down towards the Variante Ascari. And that's a car that's going to need quite a bit of repair work before the next round of the championship. Next stop, Silverstone. Then the series moves to Paul Ricard and on to Spa with the final round of the championship at the Nürburgring. But the world final is where the Europeans, the Asian and the North American championship drivers all get together. And that is at the Sepang circuit in November. The 2nd running of the Lamborghini World Final. Vallelonga last year. And this year goes to the Asian market rather than the European. So as the cars make their way down the pit lane ready for the Formula Renault 3.5 race, the Pro Cup drivers, the Pro Class drivers should be ready. And so I think we are now ready for the 3rd place drivers to make their way to the podium. So Cedric Lima and Jonathan Cochet for 3rd place on the very last lap make their way to the podium. Cedric Lima, double champion. A man who's not missed a race, I think I'm right in saying, in the history of the Lamborghini Blancpain Super Trofeo. He has been a stalwart, and the Swiss driver still very quick. So Jonathan Cochet follows Cedric Lima to the podium. Jonathan Cochet looking far happier than Cedric Lima, who I think has perhaps been finding life a bit tougher this weekend with the reintroduction of the pro drivers. 2nd goes in the class to the Dutchman Jeroen Mul, who is very happy with today. Yesterday was a bit dramatic for him, but 2nd today, again on the last lap taking that place. A great result. But for the top step, the winners are Milos Pavlovic and Eduardo Piscopo. So the trophies to be presented. Milos Pavlovic has done a lot of racing in Italy. I think he's a sort of honorary Italian by now. And he and Eduardo Piscopo celebrate their race win, their class win. This is the pro class celebration that we're looking at. But the 3rd place trophies, first of all, go to Cedric Lima and to Jonathan Cochet. And then for second place at the other end of the podium, Jeroen Mul, adapting well, I think it's fair to say, certainly in that race from Porsche to Lamborghini, his new steed for the year. But then for the top step, the trophy goes to Milos Pavlovic and Eduardo Piscopo. Milos on the left, slightly taller of the two. Both of them with a good single-seater pedigree before coming to closed cars. The Pirelli trophy goes their way as well. Lots of handshakes, lots of photographs to be taken. And for Bonaldi Motorsport, 2 class wins, of course, because Pro-Am and Pro both won by the Italian squad. And it's Eduardo Piscopo that gets the clock, courtesy of Blancpain. And the photographs will be taken. So 2 different outright winners, Andrea Palmer yesterday, Milos Pavlovic and Eduardo Piscopo today, to wrap up what has been a very good weekend of racing in the Lamborghini Blancpain Super Trofeo. So the championship from Monza will move to Silverstone for the next 2 races. And we'll see whether it's going to be Bonaldi that still is the team to beat, or whether indeed any other teams are going to be able to fight back. Silverstone is the next stop. It is over the Saturday and Sunday of May 24th and 25th. Expect more great racing from the Lamborghini Blancpain Super Trofeo. But for the opening races here at Monza, we've had a great weekend. And from Jack Nicholls in the pits and from David Addison, it's goodbye.